What's up, guys? My name is Alan with Study Sound Audio, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Erra Cure All MIDI Riff Pack.
Drowning the sound, the voices tearing away.
Now, what's a riff pack? So a riff pack is basically something I came up with a while ago where I wanted to offer value to other musicians. I noticed that there's a lot of YouTube videos out there and tutorials, which are really great, by the way, but they lack resources. And if they do have resources, they're usually behind a paywall or it's just a simple PDF file. And I wanted to go a step further and offer a little bit more than that. So a riff pack includes guitar tabs, all the MIDI for the complete riff, a mix down of the song, and stems. Now, stems are a little bit different than multitracks. If you don't know, stems are basically processed files of all the individual elements of the mix. Multitracks are unprocessed files of all the elements in the mix. At least that's how I perceive stems and multitracks. Now, this first riff pack is just going to be MIDI and then a mix down of the song, kind of like an intro into riff packs. Every future riff pack is going to include all the other stuff that I was talking about. So the guitar MIDI for the riff pack is going to be exclusive to Axure GMP, which is Study Sound Audio's guitar MIDI library. You can use other guitar MIDI plugins with this, but you're going to have a little trouble with the key switches. Our key switches are a little different, so we just recommend picking up Axure. Our goal is to do at least a couple of riff packs a month, and they're all going to be completely free. Why are we doing this for free? Well, that just goes along with my main mission with Study Sound Audio, and that is to just help other musicians. Along with every riff pack is going to be a video showing you guys how to program the riff and mix it. Anyways, that's enough talking. Let's get into the riff pack.
All right, so first I have a empty MIDI drum track here, and I'm going to track a little bit of the drums on my E-kit, and then we'll come back and we'll go over the guitars, bass, and everything else. All right. Okay, so I'm not really a drummer, and it took me a very long time to get down that first fill in the beginning of the song. I sat there and I practiced that for like ever. So I hope you guys enjoy the MIDI Riff Pack. I'm using Get Good Drums, Modern and Massive, my favorite kit by them, and it's kind of like a little bit of a mix and match of all the kit pieces. I think I'm using the Gretsch bell. I think I'm using the standard Tama Star Classic Babinga Tom 1. I'm using the Star Classic Babinga 12x9 Rack Tom Guru Paduic. I don't know how to say that. 16x14 floor tom. A Q Drum Coast Steel 18x6 floor tom 2. So actually I have two floor toms and a rack tom. I like the way that the floor toms sound as kind of like a tom 2. That one right there. And there's a deep one right there. So that's how I run those. And then your standard cymbals in Modern and Massive. And I have it multi-outed into Reaper. I'm doing some post-processing there with all the individual pieces of the kit. I learned the song by ear. Sometimes when people tab out stuff on the internet, it's not 100% correct. And sometimes I really can't trust it. So a lot of the times, especially in these riff packs, I like to kind of do it by ear. And I really dissect it. Like I slow things down and really pay attention to every element, like every hit on the drums, every note on the guitars, everything. Whenever I make these riff packs, I'm really paying attention to it and making sure it's like as authentic as possible. You know, much like the musicians played it. Okay, so there's the drums. And then let's move on to guitars. This is Axure. We're going to be using Axure Guitar 1. I have my pick attack set at 0.33, release at 0.33, and then my chug at 0.50. I'm on the bridge pickup, and I have phase drive turned off. I usually have them turned off for the rhythms. So the tone I'm using is Fortin Nameless X, the new update, which is pretty sick, by the way. It sounds awesome. So I'm just using the Dynamic 57 and the Ribbon 160 for both mics. Here's my settings for the head. I am using the hex drive a little bit, just a little push on the hex drive, because I noticed that these overdrive pedals, they really saturate the signal. So I'm just using a touch of that. And then I think I have a little bit of EQ. It's not much going on here on the EQ. And then I'm using the GGD Studio Cabs Contenders Round 1. It doesn't tell you what preset you're using, which I think somebody said something on the forum about getting them to update that so that you know what preset you're using. I'm using, I believe, the Clayton King rhythm or something. One of the Clayton King presets. I have a little bit of Fab Filter EQ going on to get some of that low, mid, mud, and then a lot of that high end kind of hiss. I'm kind of notching some things, and then I've got a little bit of soothe on there to kind of tame a little bit of the high end after that. And then I've got a little bit of SSL compression, 4-to-1. Attack is kind of slow, but I've got a fast release. I've got a little bit of Wave C6 multiband compression, kind of taming a little bit of that low end. And then also there was like a screechy frequency in there that just was not getting out with EQ. So I kind of just pulled it down with some of this multiband compression and dialed it in there. That's all I got for guitar processing. And it's pretty much the same on the other guitar. I'll let you hear what both guitars sound like together. That's our guitar MIDI library, Axure GMP. Hard at work there. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit to the MIDI so I can show you guys how I have it programmed. So as you can see, if you're not familiar with Reaper, the different colors are the different velocities. So you'll see that I'm using a lot of different velocities in guitar. That's one thing to note, is if you're programming MIDI, you want it to sound as realistic as possible. Just like drums or any other MIDI instrument, you got to utilize your key switches and articulations and your velocities. And that's what makes it sound as realistic as possible. Mainly in like the palm mutes and chugs and different little accents like that. For the beginning of the song, I think I just have sustain alt pick, which is MIDI note 18 for me. That would be F sharp -1. Okay, so we got alt pick there for the beginning of the song. The first hit on there is natural harmonic, which is one of the articulations. It's going to be MIDI note 8, G sharp -2. You want to plug that in right there at the bottom. It goes all the way down to C0, but it doesn't really sound like a harmonic, but it is. So you've got your harmonic here. So I'm just pretty much doing like an octave of that note. The next one is, and then when you change notes, we're going to alt pick and then just open note, which is D sharp 0. So I'm switching back from the natural harmonic to a alt pick, and then going back to natural harmonic, and then back to alt pick. Another good reason to use different velocities is because the library has multiple velocity layers, which are different samples altogether. So in order to avoid phase, which you shouldn't have any problem with phase, but just to make sure that you don't have any phase, utilize your velocities. 0 to 42 is a velocity layer. 43 to 85, I think, is a velocity layer. And then 86 all the way to 127 is a velocity layer, I believe. There's 3 different velocity layers, and those are the ranges. So yeah, if you want to get the most out of the library, fiddle around with the velocities. You can get different sounds for whatever articulation you're using. And also, it works like a velocity should. There's light, medium, and hard attacks. Yeah, that first part, I'm just kind of randomizing the velocities. Okay, this is something cool that I want to show you guys. I haven't shown you yet. Now, there's a pick attack knob in Axure, and it's pretty strong. I mean, you don't have to really turn it up very much to get some good pick attack on there. And sometimes it's easy to overdo it. You can also automate the pick attack too, but there's another thing that I like to do on chugs. Like if there's like a really like intense chug in a song, I'll do this thing with the dead notes. these right here are dead notes. I'll take like a 1/28th note, which is the smallest note I can make in Reaper, and I'll put one right before the bar hits and then right after the bar. And it simulates this like hard pick attack sort of noise. I usually put that in front of a palm mute. So this is a palm mute part. It just gives it that extra little push of pick attack. You could probably get the same effect with the pick attack knob, but I like to do this just to just give it that extra push. See, without it, let's mute it. Now with, it's just a little bit more attack there. Or this is an open palm mute, like dun, dun, a chug. You'll notice here, I'm using a different velocity layer. And then for the third note, I'm using a different velocity layer. That also keeps it from sounding too static and just stale. Definitely when you're doing palm mutes, you got to think like a guitar player. The first note you hit on a guitar is going to be the hardest stroke. The second stroke is going to be less hard. And then the third one's going to be the softest pluck that you have. Program it the same way that you would actually play it. You're going to get the most realistic sound programming it that way. Okay, so you might notice in the MIDI Riff Pack that I have some notes kind of grayed out, like muted. So don't worry about those. Those really don't need to be there. So if you see that in the MIDI, don't worry about that. It's where I was programming and I was probably like, that doesn't sound good. So I muted it. You'll notice my little trick here again with the pick attack. Because in the actual song, that's like a really intense part. The dun, 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 dun. It's got that scrapey pick attack noise kind of sound. And that's why I did the little dead notes right before and after each note hits. Okay, so that one is going to be alt pick palm mute. So another thing is when you're programming chugs, like I said before, think like how a guitar player would play it. When you're doing chugs like that on a guitar, you're going down, up, right? You're not downstroke palm muting all of that. I don't think anybody would ever downpick that. It would be impossible. I don't know, maybe Clayton King can do it. But I usually just program a palm mute alt pick right there. Another way you could do it, it's the same exact thing, but it's different samples. So let me point that out. Because palm mute alt pick are completely different samples than palm mute downstroke and palm mute upstroke. So if you want to get a different feel for your palm mutes, you're just not getting it with the alt pick, which I think they all sound good. But, if you just want a different little character to it, I would program it like down, up. So downstroke, upstroke, upstroke. So we'll leave this one the way it is. And then we'll just copy that over and we'll do, so downstroke palm mute is 16, which is E-1. We're just going to copy this and we'll move it down. So 16 is downstroke, 17 upstroke. And we'll leave that one there, and then we'll grab this one and go up. So this is downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke. And then this one's just the alt pick. Let's just hear the difference. They sound pretty similar, but you can achieve the same exact thing with either one of them. But they are different samples. So just keep that in mind if you're programming and you just want things to sound different. You can do it either or. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so there's a bend there. Okay, so what I do in Reaper is I just click on the note and I come over here to this little thing and go to pitch. You'll see here I very crappily inputted some automation here with the pitch, but I'm just going down. So that's all there is to that. This song's pretty straightforward as far as guitars go, but there's one more thing I want to show you, and it's the release noises for the chugs. Now, if you notice in the actual song, right before the song ends, there's like that chug part, dun, dun, dun. During that part, you'll notice there's like this release noise on the guitar. To get that, it's like that weird little guitar noise. It's like you're letting off a note, right? And it sounds like this. All right, so without, see how like just flat and silent it sounds after each chug? And then with, that just adds a little bit of character there, a little bit of realism. And if you'll notice in the actual song, that's what it sounds like in the recording too. It's got that weird little release noise, which that was like one of the first things I caught on the song when I first heard it. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Like that chug sounds like raw and like live. You can get that same noise with Axure. Program your release noises right after the note. Right after the note ends. I have them kind of cut off early right here, but as soon as they end, then the release noise begins. That's how you want to program it. That is going to be E5, MIDI note 88. I think it's like one of the last notes on the keyboard. These green keys right here, all those guitar noises. As far as all the other elements, for this riff pack, I actually didn't recreate the synths. I just used the synth from the real song in order to get it to kind of happen in between where I needed it to happen. I kind of cut it. So it sounds like this. And the reason why I did it like that is because you'll hear drums and all the other elements of the mix, and I didn't want that in my mix. Every time there was like silence and it was just the synth, I muted it and then I unmuted it. Whenever you listen to it in the full mix, you can't even tell that it's like doing that. Because the guitar and the drums and the vocals are all like happening, your ears are not even able to tell that the synth is happening during those parts. So that's why I did it like that. And also, I didn't want it to bleed in with my own mix. Now, on future riff packs, I'm going to be including synth. I'm going to be recreating the whole riff. This song, I actually made a video for on my personal channel where I broke it down a little bit. Kind of like this video, but I'm kind of going a little bit more into detail here. And then, let's see what else we got.
Voices tearing away, lost in the blood.
So that is the vocal. What I did is I went to vocalremover.org, and it's a free website where you can remove instruments from a track and just have vocals, or you can remove the vocals and just have instruments. It's pretty cool. I use it all the time. That's all I did. I just stripped the music from the vocals and just put those vocals over the top of the mix. And I didn't even do anything to the vocals. I think what I got a little bit of Reaper reverb on it. That's it. Because, it doesn't need any processing. It's already been mixed and processed, so don't need to add to it, really. Bass is just your standard MIDI bass. I won't go over that because I'm using a bass guitar that shall not be named, and we're just not going to go over the bass today. But we will go over the bass in the next one. And that's it, dude. It's just bass, 2 guitars. Oh, and then we're doing some impacts, okay? So this is something that's not in the actual song. I like to do a little bit of post-production, like cymbal swells, snare bombs, and snare swells, and 808s, things like that. All this stuff right here is not in the actual song. I just added it for effect. I will be updating this riff pack. Now, when I first sent it out, all it had was just MIDI and a mix down of the song. But I'm going to update it and give you guys the stems and these effects tracks and all the stuff that I added into it, just so that you guys can kind of see how I did it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. In future riff packs, this is kind of what I wanted to talk to you guys about is, what do you want to see in a future riff pack? Like when I break it down, what do you want to see? Do you want to see how I mixed it? Do you want to see more detail about the guitar MIDI? Whatever it is that you want to see, leave a comment below and let me know. That way we can, make these riff packs better. So far, they're going to come with the stems, the MIDI, the mix down, and guitar tabs. There are no guitar tabs for this song just because I don't own a 7-string guitar or an 8-string guitar, and I'm pretty sure this song was played with 7-string guitars. So that's why I haven't tabbed it out. It's pretty easy, guys. I mean, it's just open notes. The only thing that would be a little hard to play would be like the natural harmonics, like figuring that out, like which ones to actually use. I don't know, but I'm sure that would be pretty easy too to figure out. But the next riff pack is going to be a little bit more technical, actually a lot more technical, a lot more to offer there with the different elements in the mix and everything. There's not really much to go over on the guitar MIDI side of things. In future ones, there will be, because there's going to be a lot of other techniques that I'm going to be using with Axure that's going to show you how to do like slides and hammer-on pull-offs, all that kind of stuff. So,
Drowning the sound, the voice. Voices tearing away, lost in the maze, looking for a wish or a cure, a failsafe.
All right, guys, that is Erra Cure All MIDI Riff Pack. It was really cool going over this riff pack with you guys. I hope you learned how to play the riff, program it, mix it, whatever. I hope it served its purpose. Don't forget to like and share, and definitely don't forget to subscribe because we're going to be making a lot more riff packs. If you want to grab this riff pack, go to studysoundaudio.com, sign up for our newsletter, and we'll send you an email with the download for completely free. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you learned something. And with that said, it's going to be a wrap for this riff pack, and we'll see you on the next one.
Voices like the